Carl Jung, using your shadow to discover the life you are meant to live. What if I told you that everything you've been running away from, your fears, self-doubt, and hidden emotions, are actually clues to your true purpose? Today, we're diving deep into Carl Jung's most powerful concept, the shadow, and how embracing it can change your life forever. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll have the roadmap to unlocking your potential. Part 1, Introduction. Embracing the darkness and within. Carl Jung, one of the most influential figures in the history of psychology, introduced the concept of the shadow as a crucial part of human nature. His work, particularly in the realm of depth psychology, provides us with profound insights into understanding the unconscious mind and its impact on our lives. The shadow is an unconscious aspect of our personality that contains all the traits, emotions, and desires that we suppress or deny because they don't align with the persona or the mask we wear in society. Jung believed that the shadow wasn't something inherently evil or to be feared. Rather, it is the part of us that contains repressed qualities, traits we may not accept, or that we believe are too negative or inappropriate to express. The shadow can include emotions like anger, jealousy, or shame, and even aspects of ourselves that society views as unacceptable. However, it also holds hidden potentials, strengths, desires, and talents that, when integrated, can lead to personal transformation and self-actualization. The concept of the shadow might sound abstract at first, but its implications for our daily lives are profound. It isn't just a psychological theory, it's a map that can guide us toward greater self-awareness, inner peace, and fulfillment. Jung's teachings offer us a way to embrace and understand the parts of ourselves that we often try to hide. In doing so, we can uncover deeper layers of our being, ultimately achieving a greater sense of purpose and wholeness in life. The importance of shadow work. Why is shadow work so vital to our personal development? The importance lies in the fact that the unconscious mind controls much of our behavior. The qualities and emotions we suppress do not disappear, rather, they influence our actions in subtle and unconscious ways. These hidden aspects often manifest through emotional triggers, projections, and interpersonal conflicts. When we suppress certain emotions or desires, we essentially give them power over us. The more we try to deny or ignore them, the more they can control our lives from the shadows, often leading to self-sabotage or unexplainable emotional reactions. Shadow work is the process of bringing these hidden aspects into our conscious awareness. By confronting and embracing the parts of ourselves we have repressed, we begin to achieve individuation, a concept Jung developed that refers to the process of becoming the person we are truly meant to be. Individuation involves reconciling all aspects of the self, both light and dark, into a harmonious whole. This is not about becoming perfect or eliminating our flaws. Rather, it's about acknowledging our full, authentic selves and accepting them without judgment. The journey of shadow work is about freeing ourselves from the chains of repression, fear, and shame. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and courage. It is, however, a journey worth undertaking. Embracing the shadow can lead to greater emotional resilience, creative expression, and a stronger sense of purpose in life. By doing so, we not only heal and transform ourselves, but also begin to unlock a deeper understanding of our true nature and destiny. The role of the shadow in discovering life's purpose. One of the most powerful aspects of shadow work is how it can help us uncover our true life's purpose. Many of us spend years searching for meaning in external circumstances, looking for answers in careers, relationships, or societal expectations. However, according to Jung, our purpose is not something we find outside of ourselves. It's something that comes from within. The key to discovering our life's purpose lies in aligning with our authentic self, which includes acknowledging and integrating both the light and dark aspects of our personality. Jung's philosophy teaches that purpose is not static or defined by external success. It's about becoming the person we are meant to be, authentic, complete, and true to our inner calling. The shadow, far from being a hindrance to this process, holds the key to unlocking it. The qualities we hide in the shadow often hold untapped potential and insight into our deepest desires and talents. For example, someone who suppresses their creativity due to fear of failure might find that embracing this repressed creativity leads them to a fulfilling artistic career. Similarly, someone who has long denied their anger or frustration may discover that channeling these emotions into activism or social justice work becomes their true calling. When we confront and integrate the shadow, we free up energy that was previously spent on repression and denial. This energy can then be channeled into creative, purposeful pursuits. Rather than being burdened by the darkness within us, we learn to see it as a source of power and potential. Jung believed that this integration process is essential not only for personal growth, but also for contributing to the collective unconscious, the shared experiences, dreams, and symbols that connect all humans across time and space. By embracing our full selves, we make a more significant contribution to humanity as a whole. Shadow work as a pathway to wholeness. The act of shadow work is not about perfection, it's about wholeness. Jung's philosophy emphasizes that we cannot achieve true self-actualization by rejecting parts of ourselves. Wholeness is not found by getting rid of the shadow, but by accepting and integrating it. This is why shadow work is so essential for personal growth. It enables us to become whole, authentic individuals who live in alignment with our deepest values and purpose. The journey to wholeness through shadow work is challenging, but it is also transformative. As we bring the unconscious into the conscious mind, we begin to see the world in a new light. We stop seeing our flaws, fears, and repressed desires as things to be ashamed of. And instead, we see them as tools for growth and self-discovery. The shadow holds the secrets to our deepest fears, but also to our greatest strengths. By embracing the shadow, we learn to operate from a place of greater self-awareness and emotional clarity. We stop being controlled by unconscious patterns and emotional reactions, and instead, we become empowered to make conscious choices that align with our true desires and purpose. The first step in shadow work, awareness. The first step in shadow work is awareness. To begin the process of integrating the shadow, we must first become aware of its existence. This involves paying close attention to our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Emotional triggers, for instance, are often the first signs that the shadow is at play. If you find yourself reacting strongly to something someone says or does, ask yourself why you feel that way. Are you reacting to the person or to something in yourself that you haven't fully acknowledged? Awareness is the key to unlocking the messages hidden in our unconscious mind. It's important to approach this process with curiosity rather than judgment. Each emotional reaction, each moment of discomfort, holds valuable information about the parts of ourselves that we have yet to confront. As we begin to cultivate awareness of our shadow, we can start to uncover its hidden truths. We can observe the traits and emotions we've tried to suppress and reflect on how they have influenced our lives. Through this awareness, we take the first steps toward integrating the shadow and discovering our true selves. Part 2, the shadow. What is it and why does it matter? Carl Jung's concept of the shadow is one of the cornerstones of his work in depth psychology. At its core, the shadow represents the unconscious part of our psyche that contains all the qualities, traits, and emotions we reject, deny, or suppress. It is the aspect of ourselves that we often try to hide from others and, at times, even from our own awareness. The parts of our personality that reside in the shadow may include qualities we find unacceptable, like anger, envy, or selfishness, or even aspects of ourselves that society has taught us to suppress, such as our desires, creativity, or passion. But what exactly is the shadow, and why does it matter? In this section, we will explore how the shadow works within our psyche and why it is crucial for our personal growth. We will also discuss how acknowledging and confronting the shadow allows us to integrate these repressed parts into our conscious awareness, leading to a deeper understanding of ourselves and a more fulfilling life. The nature of the shadow. The shadow is not just about darkness or negative traits. It is the hidden side of our personality that exists in the unconscious mind. It represents the qualities that we have rejected or been taught to repress because they don't fit with the persona we show to the world. These are the aspects of ourselves that we deem unacceptable, shameful, or out of line with societal norms. For example, a person may repress their anger because they have been taught that anger is inappropriate or unworthy. A person who is highly intellectual may suppress their creativity because they were raised to value logic and reason over artistic expression. In addition to these negative traits, the shadow also holds positive qualities that we might suppress due to fear, insecurity, or low self-esteem. For instance, someone might repress their talent for leadership because they fear they are not capable of handling responsibility or that they will fail. Similarly, someone for art might suppress their creativity because they were taught that pursuing artistic endeavors was impractical or unworthy. The shadow contains both the dark and light aspects of our personality that have been repressed or denied over time. The repression of these qualities is not necessarily a conscious decision. Often, we repress these traits because we are taught from a young age what is acceptable and unacceptable by family, society, and culture. Over time, we internalize these external judgments and begin to hide parts of ourselves that don't align with societal expectations or our self-image. However, Jung argued that in doing so, we limit our potential and prevent ourselves from fully expressing who we are. Why does the shadow matter? The shadow is essential to our growth because it holds the key to our authentic self. We cannot become whole or fully realize our potential if we continue to deny or ignore the parts of ourselves that lie in the shadow. The more we repress or avoid our shadow, the more control it exerts over us. These hidden aspects of ourselves often show up in subtle ways, such as emotional reactions, interpersonal conflicts, and projections. The more we deny these parts, the more they manifest in our lives in ways we cannot control. For example, if a person has spent years repressing their anger, they may find themselves having frequent outbursts or experiencing resentment in relationships. If someone has suppressed their creativity due to fear of failure, they may find themselves feeling unfulfilled in their career or personal life. Even though they have the talent and desire to pursue a creative passion, the shadow shows up in ways that are often disruptive and uncontrollable. But it is only through confronting and integrating these aspects that we can begin to understand ourselves more fully and live more authentically. Jung believed that by bringing the shadow into conscious awareness, we begin the process of individuation, which is the journey toward becoming the person we are truly meant to be. Individuation is the process of integrating all aspects of ourselves, both light and dark, into a harmonious whole. It involves not rejecting the shadow, but accepting it as part of our entire being. Only when we embrace both the positive and negative aspects of our personality can we begin to experience true self-actualization. How the shadow holds hidden traits, talents, and desires. One of the most fascinating aspects of the shadow is that it doesn't just contain negative or undesirable qualities. The shadow is also home to parts of ourselves that we have buried because we either don't recognize their value or fear what others might think. These hidden parts of ourselves often hold the key to untapped talents, desires, and strengths that, when embraced, can lead us to a more fulfilled life. For instance, consider someone who has spent their entire life trying to fit into a mold of what they think is acceptable. Perhaps they have buried their creative passion because they were told that art or music was a waste of time. For years, they lived their life pursuing a career that wasn't aligned with their true passions. However, once they confront their shadow and allow themselves to explore their creative desires, they may uncover a deep reservoir of talent and fulfillment. By embracing their suppressed creativity, they may discover that their true calling lies in the very aspects of themselves they had previously rejected. Similarly, someone who has always been seen as quiet and reserved may have a powerful desire for leadership or public speaking that they have suppressed due to fear of judgment. The shadow can also contain repressed desires for love, connection, or recognition. When we acknowledge and integrate these hidden desires, we not only become more whole, but we also tap into our true potential. In essence, the shadow is not something that should be feared or ignored. It is a gateway to our untapped strengths and unrecognized potential. As we explore the shadow, we begin to uncover parts of ourselves that can lead to more meaningful, creative, and purposeful lives. The shadow and its relationship to the unconscious mind. The shadow is intricately connected to the unconscious mind, which holds all the repressed aspects of our psyche. According to Jung, the unconscious is not a passive repository but an active force that shapes our thoughts, emotions, and actions. The unconscious mind constantly influences our behavior in subtle and overt ways. Even though we are unaware of its workings, when we suppress or deny certain aspects of our personality, we push them into the unconscious, where they remain hidden but continue to affect our actions. The more we deny these parts of ourselves, the more the unconscious mind works to keep them buried. However, these hidden aspects don't go away. They manifest in the form of emotional outbursts, irrational fears, projections, and unconscious behaviors. Through shadow work, we bring the unconscious into conscious awareness. By recognizing the traits, desires, and emotions that we have suppressed, we begin to understand the deeper workings of our psyche. This process of uncovering the unconscious mind allows us to gain insight into our behavior and emotions, ultimately leading to greater self-awareness and emotional clarity. Part 3, the power of facing the shadow. In Carl Jung's philosophy, one of the most crucial and transformative actions we can take in our lives is facing our shadow. While it may seem daunting or even frightening, the power of confronting the shadow lies in its ability to lead us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and ultimately guide us toward individuation. This process of individuation is the journey of becoming our true, authentic selves, and it is only by integrating the shadow that we can achieve this wholeness. Many of us spend our lives avoiding the darker, suppressed aspects of ourselves, fearing judgment or rejection, both from others and ourselves. However, the paradox that Jung points out is this: the parts of ourselves that we fear and reject most are often the key to unlocking our greatest potential. Only by confronting the shadow can we truly grow and experience personal transformation. In this section, we will explore how facing the shadow leads to individuation, discuss the personal insights and benefits that come from embracing our darker sides, and show how this confrontation can lead to a more authentic and purposeful life. Confronting the shadow leads to individuation. At the heart of Jung's theory of shadow work is the concept of individuation. Individuation is the process by which a person becomes the fullest version of themselves. It is a journey toward wholeness, where we integrate all aspects of our being, our light and dark sides, into a cohesive whole. According to Jung, we are born with a specific potential, but much of that potential is hidden in the unconscious mind. This potential is held within the shadow, and only by embracing our hidden traits, desires, and emotions can we begin to realize who we are meant to be. To understand how confronting the shadow leads to individuation, consider the following. Most of us have a persona, or mask, that we wear to fit into society. This persona is the version of ourselves that we show the world, our idealized self that we believe is socially acceptable. The problem is, this persona is not our true self. It is a limited expression of who we really are, as it only represents certain parts of our personality while suppressing the others. Individuation happens when we step out from behind the persona and integrate the shadow into our conscious awareness. This means accepting all parts of ourselves, even the parts we've rejected, and realizing that every aspect of our personality is integral to our wholeness. The more we avoid or deny these darker aspects, the more fragmented we become, creating inner conflict and disconnection. Individuation allows us to heal this fragmentation and achieve inner harmony. Jung believed that the individuation process is essential for living an authentic life. It allows us to align with our true self, rather than living in a way that conforms to external expectations. The more we confront our shadow, the more we shed the mask of the persona and move toward being who we were truly meant to be. Embracing the darkness, personal insights and benefits. While confronting the shadow can be uncomfortable, it offers profound personal benefits that are well worth the effort. By facing our darker sides, we not only heal the wounds of the past, but also gain greater emotional resilience and strength. When we stop avoiding uncomfortable emotions and instead learn to integrate them, we begin to free ourselves from the limitations that have held us back. One of the most significant benefits of shadow work is the development of greater self-acceptance. By embracing all aspects of our personality, we stop rejecting parts of ourselves and instead learn to appreciate our complexity. Self-acceptance is the foundation of self-love and confidence, and it enables us to make peace with our past and present. We no longer need to hide from ourselves, and this freedom allows us to step into our true power. Another benefit of confronting the shadow is emotional freedom. Many of us suppress emotions like anger, fear, or sadness because we don't know how to process them. These emotions, however, are natural and part of the human experience. When we face them head-on and integrate them, we release the emotional burden they carry. We stop reacting impulsively to life's challenges and instead respond with greater calm, clarity, and balance. Shadow work also enhances creativity. When we embrace all parts of ourselves, including our hidden desires and talents, we open up new avenues. The energy that was previously tied up in repression can be redirected into creative pursuits. Jung himself believed that creativity is an essential part of individuation. Artists, writers, musicians, and other creatives often draw from their unconscious mind and integrate the shadow to create powerful works of art. This integration allows for a more vibrant and authentic expression of our inner selves. Perhaps the most profound benefit of facing the shadow is the ability to live a more purposeful life. When we stop running from our fears and insecurities, we begin to understand our deeper motivations and desires. As a result, we are able to make more conscious choices that align with our authentic selves and our true calling. Whether in our career, relationships, or personal life, integrating the shadow allows us to make decisions that are in harmony with who we are. The paradox of the shadow, why it holds the key to our growth. Jung's exploration of the shadow reveals an interesting paradox. The very parts of ourselves we fear and reject the most are often the ones that hold the key to our personal growth. It is human nature to want to avoid pain, discomfort, or unpleasant emotions. As a result, we suppress aspects of ourselves that make us feel vulnerable or insecure. However, in doing so, we block our own potential. The shadow is not just a container for bad or negative qualities. It also holds hidden strengths. These strengths might be qualities we have not yet fully recognized or developed. But once we face them, we can unlock new powers within ourselves. For example, someone who has repressed their anger may discover that this anger is actually a source of motivation and assertiveness when channeled properly. Someone who has avoided their creativity might find that embracing their artistic side leads to personal fulfillment and success. Jung argued that the shadow is like a treasure chest. It contains the gold and jewels of our potential. But only by confronting it can we access these hidden treasures. The more we resist the shadow, the more powerful it becomes. But when we embrace it, we take away its power to control us and instead turn it into a tool for growth. Practical steps for confronting the shadow. Confronting the shadow is not something that happens overnight. It is a lifelong process that requires patience, self-compassion, and courage. However, the steps to begin this journey are relatively simple, though not always easy. 1. Awareness. The first step in confronting the shadow is becoming aware of it. Pay attention to your emotional reactions, triggers, and behaviors. These often point to areas where the shadow is at work. Ask yourself, what part of myself am I rejecting or avoiding? What behaviors or traits in others trigger a strong emotional reaction in me? These are often clues to your own shadow. 2. Acceptance. Once we become aware of the shadow, the next step is acceptance. This involves acknowledging that all parts of ourselves are valid, even the ones we find uncomfortable or unacceptable. Acceptance doesn't mean acting on every impulse or indulging in negative behaviors. It means acknowledging these parts without judgment and understanding their role in our lives. 3. Integration. The final step is integration, bringing the shadow into our conscious awareness and using it to guide our actions. This can involve making conscious decisions to embrace suppressed traits, like expressing anger constructively or pursuing creative passions. It might also involve setting healthy boundaries, communicating more openly, or exploring new aspects of ourselves. Through this process of awareness, acceptance, and integration, we begin to experience the benefits of shadow work: greater authenticity, emotional freedom, creativity, and clarity. By confronting the shadow, we open ourselves to a deeper understanding of our true selves and unlock the power to live a fuller, more purposeful life. Part 4, Emotional Reactions, Clues to the Shadow. One of the most profound ways in which the shadow manifests in our lives is through our emotional reactions. Carl Jung believed that our emotions, particularly intense or disproportionate reactions, can serve as key indicators that we are encountering parts of our shadow. These emotional responses, often triggered by external events or the actions of others, reveal hidden aspects of ourselves that we may have repressed or failed to acknowledge. In this section, we will explore how emotional reactions act as clues to the shadow, how they help us uncover aspects of ourselves we may have ignored, and how this self-awareness can lead to profound personal transformation. By examining these emotional triggers, we can begin to understand what the shadow is trying to tell us and how we can use these insights to grow, heal, and live more authentically. Understanding emotional triggers and the shadow. Emotional reactions are often spontaneous and unconscious. For example, we may feel inexplicably angry or upset when someone behaves in a certain way. But when we examine the situation closely, the intensity of our reaction doesn't seem to match the situation. It's as though the emotional response is out of proportion to the event or behavior itself. These intense feelings are often the result of the shadow at work. Jung suggested that these emotional triggers can provide a window into the unconscious mind. When we experience a strong reaction, whether it's anger, jealousy, fear, or even extreme admiration, it's not just about the other person or the situation. It's about something inside ourselves that has been touched, often unconsciously. For example, if someone criticizes us in a way that provokes an unusually strong defensive response, it may be that the criticism has activated a repressed insecurity or fear we have about ourselves. The other person's words have inadvertently brought a hidden part of our shadow to the surface. The key to understanding these emotional reactions is to recognize that they are often projections of our own unresolved issues. When we project parts of our shadow onto others, we are seeing in them qualities that we have rejected or denied in ourselves. By becoming aware of these emotional triggers, we can begin to peel back the layers of the shadow and uncover the hidden emotions, fears, or desires that lie beneath the surface. Projection, seeing the shadow in others. One of the central concepts in Jung's theory of the shadow is projection, the psychological mechanism by which we attribute our own unconscious traits, desires, or fears to other people. Essentially, when we are triggered by someone's behavior or attitude, we are often projecting our own shadow onto them. This projection can lead us to overreact, misinterpret, or wrongly judge others based on qualities that are actually present within ourselves. For example, if someone feels a sense of inadequacy or failure deep inside, they may react negatively to a colleague who displays confidence or success. The colleague's behavior, while harmless, may trigger feelings of insecurity or jealousy that are actually rooted in the person's own suppressed feelings of self-worth. Instead of acknowledging these feelings within themselves, they project them onto the other person, assuming that the colleague's success is somehow a threat. Jung believed that projection is a defense mechanism that allows us to avoid facing uncomfortable aspects of ourselves. However, projection can also serve as a valuable tool for self-discovery. By noticing who or what we project onto, we can gain insights into the parts of our shadow that we need to confront. For example, if we feel intense resentment towards someone who embodies traits we admire, such as confidence, creativity, or assertiveness, it may indicate that we are repressing these very qualities within ourselves. Recognizing projection is the first step in reclaiming these unconscious traits and integrating them into our conscious awareness. When we stop projecting our insecurities or desires onto others, we can begin to own these parts of ourselves and use them for growth and transformation. Using emotional reactions for self-discovery. To use emotional reactions as clues to the shadow, we must first develop the skill of self-awareness. When we experience a strong or disproportionate emotional reaction, we should pause and reflect on why we feel that way. Here are some key steps to help us examine our emotional responses and use them as tools for self-discovery. Notice your emotional triggers. Pay attention to what triggers an intense emotional reaction in you. Do you find yourself becoming disproportionately angry at certain behaviors? Do you feel inexplicably jealous of someone's success or relationship? These reactions often point to unresolved issues in the shadow. 2. Ask the right questions. Once you identify a strong emotional reaction, ask yourself reflective questions to explore its origins. For example, oh, why am I feeling this way? Oh, what aspect of myself does this person or situation remind me of? Oh, is there a part of me that I am rejecting or suppressing? And is this reaction a signal to confront it? 3. Examine your projections. Consider if your reaction is a projection of fears or desires. Are you reacting to something in someone else that mirrors a part of yourself that you have not yet acknowledged? If so, this is a sign that your shadow is trying to communicate with you. Accept and integrate. Once you identify the root of your emotional reaction, the next step is to accept it without judgment. This doesn't mean acting on every emotion or impulse, but rather acknowledging that these emotions are valid and part of your human experience. After acceptance, the next step is to integrate the insights you've gained from this self-awareness into your life, allowing these parts of yourself to guide you toward growth and healing. By reflecting on our emotional reactions and using them as clues to the shadow, we can begin to recognize unconscious patterns that influence our behavior in relationships. This self-awareness allows us to break free from these patterns and make more conscious choices, turning emotional reactions into opportunities for growth. Our emotional reactions are not merely obstacles to overcome. They are opportunities for deep personal growth. Each time we react emotionally to a situation or person, we have an opportunity to look within and understand ourselves better. This process of self-examination can lead to profound transformations in how we relate to ourselves and others. By recognizing emotional triggers as invitations to explore our shadow, we begin to see our reactions not as failures but as pathways to self-understanding. When we stop reacting impulsively and instead choose to reflect on our feelings, we become more empowered to change our behavior and thought patterns. This shift in perspective is at the heart of shadow work, where we no longer allow our unconscious tendencies to dictate our lives, but instead take control of our emotional responses. Moreover, as we become more aware of our emotional triggers and projections, we develop greater emotional intelligence. We become more empathetic toward others, recognizing that their behaviors and actions often reflect their own shadows. This understanding fosters compassion and allows us to form deeper, more authentic relationships. Practical steps for using emotional reactions to uncover the shadow. 1. Journal your emotional responses. Start a journal where you record your emotional reactions to people, situations, and events. Note the intensity of your feelings and any patterns that emerge over time. This will help you track when and why certain parts of your shadow are being activated. 2. Practice mindfulness. Cultivate mindfulness to become more aware of your emotional reactions in real time. When you feel triggered, take a moment to pause and breathe. Instead of immediately reacting, observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. This moment of awareness can help you separate your true feelings from automatic emotional responses. 3. Seek professional help. If certain emotional triggers feel overwhelming or difficult to process, consider seeking guidance from a therapist or counselor. They can help you explore the unconscious roots of your emotional reactions and guide you in integrating the shadow in a healthy way. Meditation and visualization. Use meditation or visualization techniques to explore your emotional reactions and their connection to the shadow. Visualizing yourself interacting with the parts of yourself you have repressed can help you confront and accept these aspects, leading to greater integration. Part 5, the shadow and purpose. The concept of the shadow is deeply intertwined with our life's purpose. According to Carl Jung, our purpose is not something external that we need to seek out or discover in the world. Instead, purpose arises from within, from the deep integration of our authentic self. To find and live our purpose, we must embrace both our light and dark sides. This is where the shadow plays a pivotal role. In this section, we will explore how the shadow holds the key to discovering our true purpose, how it influences the direction of our life, and how integrating our shadow can unlock our fullest potential. The act of confronting and integrating our shadow helps us align with our deepest calling, allowing us to live a life filled with authenticity, meaning, and fulfillment. The shadow as the gateway to purpose. The shadow is often misunderstood as the source of our negative traits or weaknesses, but it is far more than that. The shadow is where we hide aspects of ourselves that we have rejected or been taught to repress. But it is also where we bury our deepest desires, untapped potential, and unrecognized talents. These qualities are not inherently negative. They are simply parts of us that we have not yet allowed to emerge into the light of our conscious awareness. Our true purpose in life is not something we find outside of ourselves, as if it's a destination we must travel to. Rather, our purpose is rooted in our deepest desires and motivations, many of which lie hidden in the shadow. By confronting and integrating the shadow, we can uncover the desires and strengths we have suppressed, which leads to a deeper understanding of who we truly are and what we are meant to do in life. For example, a person who has repressed their creativity because they were taught that pursuing art or music was impractical may find that their true purpose lies in becoming a creator. Whether through art, music, writing, or another form of self-expression. By embracing this hidden creative energy, they align with a passion that brings them fulfillment and contributes to the world in meaningful ways. Similarly, someone who has spent years repressing their desire for leadership may discover that their true calling is to lead others in a transformative way, whether in a community, business, or social movement. These hidden desires often contain the very essence of our purpose. And when we deny them, we are essentially denying our life's work. How suppressed desires influence our purpose. The desires and aspects of ourselves that we suppress often directly relate to our life's work. For example, if we have a deep yearning to help others, but have been taught that we should focus on personal success first, we may suppress that urge to contribute to others. Over time, this unfulfilled desire for service can manifest in feelings of dissatisfaction, frustration, and a lack of purpose. Jung believed that these suppressed aspects of our personality are not just random or inconsequential. They are vital components of our purpose. When we suppress them, we are essentially creating a void, one that can only be filled by confronting and integrating the very parts of ourselves we have been avoiding. To illustrate, let's say someone has spent years in a corporate job they don't love, even though they feel a deep desire to help others. The more they repress this desire, the more discontented they become. When they finally decide to integrate this suppressed need for service into their conscious awareness, they might start volunteering or working in fields that focus on social change. This integration of the shadow, the hidden desire to help, could lead them to find their true calling. And this might give them a sense of purpose and fulfillment they had been seeking for years. In essence, the suppression of desires does not lead to personal growth or clarity. On the contrary, it blocks our ability to recognize and pursue our true purpose. Once we acknowledge and embrace these desires, we create the space to live authentically and pursue the paths that are truly meaningful to us. The shadow in alignment with the true self. The process of integrating the shadow and embracing its hidden aspects is a key component in aligning with our true self. To live a life of purpose, we must first come into alignment with who we truly are. This includes recognizing both our strengths and our weaknesses, our light and our dark. Jung's concept of individuation, the process by which we become who we truly are, is not about achieving perfection, but about embracing the fullness of our being. The shadow is an integral part of this process. When we suppress parts of ourselves, We create inner conflict, which leads to a fragmented sense of self. This fragmentation often causes confusion and a sense of being lost, which can make it difficult to find purpose in life. Individuation requires us to integrate the shadow, allowing it to become a conscious part of our self-awareness. When we no longer fight against our shadow or hide from it, we can more easily align with our true selves. And in doing so, we align with our purpose, living authentically, in accordance with our true self, is key to discovering our purpose. As we integrate the shadow, we shed the limiting beliefs and false identities that have held us back. We start to make choices that resonate with our true desires, values, and calling. This alignment with our true self brings a profound sense of clarity and fulfillment, as we are no longer living in conflict with our deeper needs. The shadow is a guide to fulfilling our calling. Once we begin to integrate the shadow, it becomes a powerful guide that leads us toward our life's calling. The shadow is not something to be feared or avoided, but rather something to be understood and embraced. It contains the wisdom we need to fulfill our purpose. Jung argued that the process of individuation and shadow integration helps us tap into deeper layers of the unconscious mind. It is through this deeper understanding of ourselves that we are able to access our unique strengths, talents, and desires. These qualities are often buried within the shadow and are crucial to fulfilling our purpose in life. Someone who has spent years hiding their desire for creative expression may find that once they begin to integrate this suppressed creativity, they have an entirely new direction in life. They may discover that their calling is to create, whether through art, writing, or performance. This integration allows them to pursue their passion with authenticity and confidence. Moreover, the shadow doesn't just influence our personal aspirations, it also impacts how we contribute to the world. When we embrace our shadow and live authentically, we begin to influence others in a more profound and positive way. Our unique perspective, shaped by our life's challenges and shadow work, can inspire and uplift those around us. Practical steps to align with purpose through the shadow. 1. Self-inquiry. Begin by asking yourself deep, reflective questions about the parts of yourself that you've ignored or suppressed. What desires, talents, or emotions have you rejected? What aspects of your personality have you been afraid to express? Write these down and explore them in depth. Understanding your hidden traits is the first step in uncovering your purpose. 2. Acceptance of repressed desires. Once you have identified the aspects of your shadow, it's time to accept them without judgment. This does not mean indulging in every impulse, but acknowledging that these parts of yourself are legitimate and valuable. Accepting these desires allows you to integrate them into your conscious awareness. Channel hidden energy into purpose. The energy that was once tied up in repression can now be redirected into meaningful action. If you've repressed a desire to help others, for example, start by volunteering or working in areas that align with your values. If you've denied your creative side, explore artistic pursuits. Channeling this newfound energy into purposeful activities allows you to align with your true calling. Align with authenticity. Aligning with your true self is essential for discovering your purpose. When you embrace both your light and dark sides, you are no longer bound by the limitations of societal expectations or self-imposed restrictions. Living authentically gives you the freedom to pursue your passions and make choices that are in harmony with your deepest values and goals. Part 6. Integrating the shadow into your life. The journey of shadow work is not merely about understanding the shadow, it is about integration. Integration is the process of bringing the unconscious, hidden aspects of ourselves into conscious awareness, accepting them, and using them to live a more authentic and purposeful life. This is the critical step that allows us to shift from intellectual understanding to actual transformation. Carl Jung emphasized that integration of the shadow is one of the most powerful ways to achieve individuation, the process of becoming whole and fully aligned with our true self. Without integrating the shadow, we remain fragmented and disconnected, continually battling inner conflicts. However, When we embrace and integrate the parts of ourselves we've hidden or rejected, we experience greater self-awareness, emotional balance, and personal fulfillment. In this section, we will discuss the practical steps for integrating the shadow into your life. From cultivating awareness and acceptance to taking concrete actions that allow the shadow to guide you toward a more authentic existence. We will also explore how integrating the shadow can lead to greater creativity, improved relationships, and a sense of purpose. Step 1: awareness, recognizing the shadow in your life. The first step in integrating the shadow is to become aware of it. Awareness is the foundation of any transformative process, and it is especially true when it comes to shadow work. Without awareness, we cannot see the hidden parts of ourselves that influence our thoughts, actions, and emotional reactions. The shadow often manifests in subtle ways, such as emotional reactions that seem disproportionate to a situation, anger at a harmless comment or jealousy over someone's success, projection onto others, where we attribute our own rejected traits or emotions to them, or recurring patterns of behavior, such as repeatedly getting involved in unhealthy relationships or sabotaging our own success. To begin the process of awareness, start by paying close attention to your emotional triggers and patterns. When you experience a strong emotional response, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, why am I reacting this way? What part of myself is being touched or activated by this situation? These questions help you move beyond surface-level reactions and start connecting with deeper, unconscious elements of yourself. Additionally, keeping a shadow journal can be extremely helpful in cultivating awareness. In your journal, write down moments when you feel triggered or react emotionally. Look for patterns or recurring themes. These can point to unconscious aspects of yourself that are seeking recognition. The more consistently you reflect on these moments, the more you will be able to identify your shadow and start to understand how it influences your life. Step 2: acceptance. Embracing the parts you've rejected. Once you become aware of the shadow, the next crucial step is acceptance. Acceptance is the process of acknowledging the parts of ourselves that we've rejected or suppressed without judgment or shame. Jung believed that true healing comes not from rejecting the shadow, but from embracing it and recognizing it as an integral part of who we are. Acceptance doesn't mean acting on every impulse or desire that arises, nor does it mean excusing harmful behaviors. Instead, it means recognizing that these traits are part of your humanity and accepting them without judgment. When we suppress parts of ourselves, we create internal conflict and emotional strain. Acceptance allows us to release that tension and create a space for growth and healing. For example, if you've spent years suppressing your anger because you were taught that anger is wrong, the first step toward acceptance is to stop judging yourself for feeling angry. Anger, in and of itself, is not negative. It's an emotion that, when understood and channeled correctly, can provide valuable insight and even motivate positive change. Accepting your anger doesn't mean lashing out. It means acknowledging that it exists and allowing it to teach you about your deeper needs and desires. The same applies to any suppressed desire, talent, or trait. If you've hidden your creative side due to fear of judgment or failure, acceptance involves acknowledging this desire for creativity and allowing it to express itself in a healthy way. Step 3: action. Using the shadow to guide your life. Integration requires more than awareness and acceptance. It requires action. Once we are aware of the shadow and have accepted it, we must begin to incorporate its energy into our daily lives. This means using the insights gained through shadow work to guide our actions, choices, and behaviors in a more authentic direction. Action in shadow work is about consciously redirecting the energy of the shadow into productive, constructive outlets. For example, and if you've integrated your anger, it may drive you to stand up for yourself or advocate for others who are oppressed. If you've embraced your creativity, you might start a new artistic project or pursue a passion you have long neglected. If you've come to terms with your fear of failure, you might finally take the leap toward a new career or start that business you've always dreamed of. Integration of the shadow also means taking responsibility for our actions. When we integrate the shadow, we stop blaming others for our emotional reactions and take ownership of our feelings. We no longer project our unconscious traits onto others, but instead, we take responsibility for them. This allows us to act with greater clarity, authenticity, and confidence. Additionally, integrating the shadow means setting healthy boundaries. When we understand our shadow, we become better equipped to understand our own needs and limitations, which helps us establish boundaries that protect our emotional well-being. Boundaries are a way of honoring both our light and dark sides. Act with the world in a way that is aligned with our authentic self. Step 4. Creativity in the shadow, unlocking your potential. One of the most powerful benefits of integrating the shadow is the unleashing of creativity. The shadow often contains hidden creative potential that we have suppressed due to fear or self-doubt. When we integrate the shadow, we reclaim this creative energy and channel it into productive and meaningful pursuits. Jung believed that creativity is an essential aspect of individuation. By engaging with our shadow, we are able to access parts of our unconscious mind that fuel artistic expression, innovation, and problem solving. Whether you are an artist, writer, musician, or even a business leader, the energy and inspiration drawn from the shadow can be a catalyst for profound creative breakthroughs. For example, if you've spent years repressing your creativity because you believed it wasn't practical, integrating the shadow can allow you to bring that creativity into your life in new ways. You might start creating art, writing, or even finding innovative solutions in your professional work. By embracing both your light and dark sides, you can tap into a fuller, more expansive creative potential. Step 5. Transforming relationships through shadow integration. Shadow work doesn't just transform us, it also transforms our relationships. When we integrate the shadow, we gain greater empathy and understanding for others. We stop projecting our own unresolved issues onto those around us, and instead, we begin to see others more clearly. The ability to understand our shadow allows us to understand the shadows of others. We recognize that, like us, others have hidden fears, desires, and traits they are grappling with. This understanding fosters greater compassion, reduces judgment, and deepens emotional connections. Moreover, when we embrace our own shadow, we stop seeking validation from others and become more secure in our own sense of self. This newfound inner security strengthens our relationships, allowing us to engage with others in a healthier, more balanced way. We no longer need others to reflect our idealized selves. We can simply show up as we are. Part 7. Transforming relationships with shadow work. Shadow work, though a deeply personal journey, does not only impact our relationship with ourselves, it can also transform how we engage with others. The deeper we dive into our own shadows, the more we gain insight into the shadows of others. Through this process, we start to understand that the conflicts and emotional triggers we experience in relationships are often reflections of unresolved parts of our own psyche. When we understand our shadow and learn to integrate it, we develop greater empathy, emotional intelligence, and connection with those around us. In this section, we will explore how understanding the shadow can enhance our relationships, resolve conflicts, and foster deeper emotional bonds. We will also discuss how integrating the shadow allows us to communicate more openly, set healthier boundaries, and engage in more authentic, fulfilling interactions with others. The mirror effect: understanding others' shadows. Carl Jung believed that relationships act as mirrors, reflecting back to us the parts of ourselves that we have not fully acknowledged or integrated. This phenomenon is known as the mirror effect. When we feel triggered or have strong emotional reactions to someone, it is often because they are reflecting a trait or aspect of ourselves that we are not fully conscious of. This can be a positive reflection, highlighting a part of us that we admire or aspire to embody, or a negative one, revealing a part of ourselves we may have repressed. For example, if we feel intense jealousy towards someone who is confident and outspoken, it may be because we are rejecting those traits in ourselves. Perhaps we long to be more assertive but have suppressed that desire due to fear of judgment. Similarly, if we react defensively when someone criticizes us, it could indicate an unresolved issue in our shadow, such as a fear of inadequacy or rejection. The person may be mirroring back to us that part of ourselves we are afraid to confront. The key to transforming relationships through shadow work is to recognize when others are acting as mirrors, showing us our own unconscious traits. Instead of projecting our negative emotions onto them, we can use these moments as opportunities to reflect on what our own reactions are telling us about our shadow. This awareness allows us to respond more mindfully, rather than being controlled by unconscious patterns of behavior. Projection, the role of shadow in conflict. One of the most common ways the shadow influences relationships is through projection. As mentioned earlier, projection occurs when we attribute our own unresolved issues, traits, or emotions to others. This psychological mechanism can create unnecessary conflict. As we begin to perceive others through the lens of our own unresolved emotions or insecurities. For example, we might criticize someone for being too selfish when, in fact, we are projecting our own hidden selfishness onto them. In relationships, projection often causes misunderstandings and tensions. We might believe that someone else's behavior is the source of our emotional discomfort, when in reality, it is our own unconscious shadow that is at play. The first step in resolving these conflicts is to recognize when projection is occurring. Instead of blaming others for our emotional reactions, we can ask ourselves, what is this situation revealing about me? What part of my shadow is being triggered? By understanding projection, we begin to take responsibility for our own emotional responses. Rather than allowing them to be controlled by unconscious patterns, this shift in perspective not only reduces conflict, but also deepens our ability to engage in compassionate, non-judgmental relationships. The power of empathy, understanding others' shadows. As we engage in shadow work, we develop a deeper understanding of our own fears, desires, and unresolved issues. This self-awareness opens the door to greater empathy for others. When we realize that everyone carries a shadow, their own hidden fears, desires, and suppressed emotions, we begin to see others with greater compassion. Empathy arises naturally from the realization that our struggles are not unique to us. Just as we have our shadows, so does everyone else. We all have aspects of ourselves that we are ashamed of or afraid to confront. This understanding allows us to connect with others on a deeper level, recognizing that their actions, just like ours, are often influenced by unconscious forces. For instance, when someone lashes out at us or acts defensively, instead of taking their behavior personally, we can pause and ask ourselves, what might this person be projecting from their own shadow? This shift in perspective allows us to respond with kindness, curiosity, and understanding, rather than reacting defensively or emotionally. By embracing our own shadow and understanding that others have their own shadows to contend with, we can transform relationships into spaces of mutual growth and healing. We become more capable of listening without judgment, offering compassion rather than criticism, and seeing the humanity in others, even when they are acting out of their own unconscious fears or insecurities. Improved communication through shadow integration. One of the key benefits of integrating the shadow is improved communication in relationships. When we understand our own unconscious patterns, we become more aware of how we communicate with others. We are less likely to respond impulsively or react defensively, and more likely to engage in conversations that are open, honest, and respectful. Integrating the shadow also allows us to express ourselves more authentically. When we stop hiding parts of ourselves, we become more transparent in our communication, sharing our true feelings, needs, and desires. This openness fosters trust and intimacy in relationships, as others begin to feel safe to express their own authentic selves. Moreover, shadow work helps us set healthier boundaries in relationships. When we are clear about our own needs and limitations, we can communicate these boundaries without guilt or fear of rejection. Healthy boundaries are essential for maintaining emotional well-being and ensuring that our relationships are balanced and respectful. By integrating the shadow, we stop allowing others to take advantage of us and we learn to say no when necessary, all while maintaining compassion and understanding. Healing and resolving conflict through shadow work. One of the most profound benefits of shadow work in relationships is its ability to heal old wounds and resolve conflicts. When we engage in shadow work, we stop seeing others as the source of our pain or frustration, and instead, we turn inward to understand our own emotional responses. This shift in perspective allows us to approach conflicts with a mindset of curiosity rather than blame. For example, if a partner or friend repeatedly triggers feelings of inadequacy in us, we might initially think they are to blame for making us feel bad about ourselves. However,